Hi, I'm Mindy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing my end of the month wrap up for March. These are the books that I read in the last half of March. If you would like to see the books I read in the first half, there were 4 of them, and I will have that video linked down below. But in the last half of March, I finished 7 more books, for a total of 11 books. For the whole month, I read 2,340 pages and listened to 55 hours of audio. And now I'm going to tell you about the 7 books I read in the second half of March. First, I finished Where I End by Sophie White. This is the book that I read for Kelsey from Simon Slasher's Patreon readathon, which was Irish themed. And this is by an Irish author and takes place in Ireland, a small island. And it is a modern Gothic novel. And it's set on this island that is kind of dark and rainy and had some really good Gothic vibes to it. It follows a young girl that has lived on this island her whole life, and she has to take care of her mother, who is comatose and cannot do things on her own. So her and her grandmother have to take care of the mother. It's a very dark, sad story. And she meets a young woman who is living on the island for 1 month as an artist to do a show. And who has a newborn baby and is struggling, and they form a friendship very quickly. She's like instantly, to an unhealthy amount, like obsessed with this girl because she's never had a friend before. No one's ever been nice to her, not even her family. So it is quite the book. Very dark, very, very bleak. I gave it 4 stars because dark and bleak is my thing. Next, I finished The Vacation by John Marrs. This is a thriller taking place in Los Angeles at an international hostel on Venice Beach. I didn't even know that existed. I didn't know we had hostels in the US. I would love to learn more about that. But it follows all of the people that work and or live in this hostel during this summer, and a lot of people there for a lot of reasons. At first, I found it hard to follow all of the different stories because there's many different characters and stories going on at the same time. But as the book went on, stories began to intertwine a lot more, and the people in the hostel are getting to know each other more, and it was easier to follow who was who. They were very distinct characters, so it did become easier as the book went on. And things go completely off the rails. It is a wild one. You wouldn't think just being on vacation in Los Angeles would be so crazy, but it is. It really is. I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. The Vacation was the book club pick for the John Marrs read-along on the Bookish Drummers Discord, also hosted by The Chapter Conundrum and Ian the Reader. The next book I finished was Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. This is a classic dystopian novel. I think, is it from the 30s? Yeah, 1932 is when it was originally published. And this is a pretty messed up future, dystopian future, where society wants to take out all pain and unhappiness. And they do that by a lot of mind control and taking children and making it so that they will be happy with their role and what they're supposed to like and what they are supposed to do in whatever class that they are in. There's a big class system in here. A man and a woman go to see people that did not grow up in this society. They were born outside of this society, and that starts to open their minds to different ways of living, and all that starts to cause some problems. I liked the story. I really liked the introduction to the story and how they are making people the way they are. It's messed up. Really messed up. And definitely caught my attention right away. Then it had a section about people just living the way they're supposed to be living in this society, necessary to show how the world works and everyone kind of in their daily routine. I didn't like that section as much because it was a little drawn out and boring. But then things start ramping up once the person from outside of this society comes into play. Things start really getting interesting again. Really good book. Do like dystopians a lot. I didn't like it as much as other dystopians I've read, like The Handmaid's Tale and 1984, Fahrenheit 451. I liked all those ones more, but this was also a good book, and I gave it 3.25 stars. I read Brave New World for the I'm with the Band book club hosted by MJ from Reading This Life. The next book I finished was an audiobook of The Lamb by Lucy Rose. This is a cannibal book about a kind of backwoods family of cannibals that trap people passing through on the road nearby, and then they take them for meat. And that's what this family does. It is really messed up. There is a LGBT theme in it, and a lot of talk about family relations and the role of a mother. If you don't want to be a mother, what that can be like, that sort of thing. I thought it was actually pretty beautiful for a cannibal story. And it is very, very gruesome and bleak. Very bleak. Wow. Wow, wow. I read this for the Jason's Weird Reads book club, and I'm glad I did. I gave it 5 stars. Okay. Next, I read When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy, an anticipated release that I got to read ahead of time, and the review is already out for this, so I'll have it linked down below. But When the Wolf Comes Home is a very high tension, fast-paced horror novel about a very special family, a boy who is running from his father, and this boy has some special abilities to make his nightmares come true. And it is quite the wild ride. I really love it, and I gave it 5 stars. Next, I listened to an audiobook for Listen to Your Sister by Nina Veal. This was the book club pick for the Creepy Book Club, hosted by Nightmare Maven, and I like this story. It's about a sister that is taking care of her little brother when their mother is deemed unfit, and she gets some help from her older brother, but he's kind of a flake. And then they start having to deal with some very supernatural things. The sister is having really bad nightmares of things that could happen to their family, and the boys get caught up in some bad things, and they end up at an old cabin where a lot of strange things happen. And that is the part where it kind of fell apart for me. I think I could have used the physical book for this one, because the audio, just listening to it, got a little confusing with when the supernatural elements came into play. And yeah. I wish I could tell you more, but I was a little confused. And I gave that book 3.25 stars. And the last book that I finished in March was on last day of March. I finished Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch. This is book 2 in the Gentleman Bastard series. And I read this for the fantasy read-along on the Bookish Drummers Discord as well. And I love this book. I love big fantasy books. The first book in this series is The Lies of Locke Lamora, and I did not like that one as much. I still liked it, but it was probably a low 4-star or 3.5 stars because there were a little bit too many characters in this band of robbers, and it was hard to differentiate between them. And there were some really cool elements, and I did like Locke, but all the other characters kind of blended in for me. This one fixed that for sure. This one was exciting. It started off with a lot less characters. It's just Locke and Jean. After the events of the first book, they're on their own and causing more mischief and in a new place. There's a lot of the book taking place in a casino, and that was so much fun. And then there's a whole nother part that's more nautical and pirates and swashbuckling, and that is super exciting. In that part of the book, there's more characters. It's like the whole crew of ships and whatnot, but super exciting all the way through. And those characters were awesome. The ones added in, I loved them. I love them all, especially the really cool female pirate characters. Wonderful. So, first book, 3.5 stars. Red Seas Under Red Skies is a 5-star book for me and a standout. This is my Yeah, this is my favorite book of the month. Yay! And it took me 2 months to read. It was the February pick for the book club, which means I did not get to book 3. Hopefully I'll be able to read the last book in this trilogy, The Republic of Thieves, in June. That's my hope. Those are the 7 books I read in the second half of March. Let me know if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them, and I will be back very soon with another book-related video. Thanks.